Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Invisible Condition. It's not all in your head. I'm your host, Jeff Pearson, and we created this show for you because we want everybody with an invisible condition, no matter what that condition is, to know beyond the shadow of a doubt that you have a voice, you have a community, and you are not alone. And to that end, you probably notice that I'm not alone right now. Nope, on this side, over here. This is my good friend Paul, and he is going to be helping me out with the show today because the invisible condition that we're talking about today, the guest that I have today is actually deaf. And her name's Rachel, and she's been deaf since age 10. And we'll hear from Rachel, but also obviously see Paul interpreting during the whole show. So just want you guys to be aware of that. And Rachel has a very strong connection to the deaf community and is well positioned to be an advocate to the hearing community about the most pressing issues within the deaf community. And so Rachel taught deaf students in multiple settings for 13 years. So she has seen a lot of the impacts of school systems that really aren't set up well to meet the needs of this unique population. So she also has a memoir, a book from this time that we'll talk about during the show, that she hopes will bring more awareness of what she describes as the dire and urgent conditions impacting deaf children. So let us bring on Rachel and welcome her to the show. Welcome, Rachel.
Hello.
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 Oh, thank you so much for being here. And I am so excited to get this show out. This is a very unique show for me, and I hope that we're able to get all across that we want to and get the message out. So can you please share with us your personal experience of becoming deaf at the age of 10 and how that has impacted your life?
Well, let me explain something first, just to give people some background. I am choosing to use sign language right now. I can speak, and I have been deaf since I was 10, but because we have an interpreter here, and I am going to sign, and that way deaf people can watch this show and have full access to the information. And so I prefer this better than speaking for myself, even though I do have access to your questions. It just seems like this is a great opportunity to take advantage of being able to do it in American Sign Language. And that's what my book is about as well. It's about empowerment and the beauty and all of the important aspects of sign language. And so, yeah, that's why I am choosing to sign. So I appreciate that you have arranged to have an interpreter here. And I want to let you know that it is not common for, most places, for myself as a deaf and hard of hearing person, I often have to fight for myself and to get access to a sign language interpreter and have access to various services such as captioning or other services. And it's often a big ordeal to go through. And so you letting me know that you had an interpreter ready was a real shocker. And, it really surprised me and it made me happy, and I do appreciate it as well. So to answer your question, I became deaf at the age of 10 because of an accident. I was playing on a swing set and I fell and I bumped my head, and I became deaf. And I recently found out just a couple weeks ago, before the school test, that I was deaf in my left ear, but my right ear was fine. And then when I fell, I lost my hearing in my right ear, which, was very sudden to be deaf all of a sudden like that. But I was fine. I never had the feeling of, some tragedy or, something awful that had happened. I never had that feeling. And, I never, felt that way in my mind. It just was something strange that happened. And, and now it's been such a long journey from the age of 10 to where I am now. And so, in a way, I don't know how to answer to answer your question, really.
No worries. I have to say something. I heard you, you said something that really impressed me, and I kind of have adopted a similar attitude, and I'm so grateful when I meet somebody that's so amazing like this, because you said something to the effect of, it was just something that happened. It wasn't a big deal. It was just something that happened, and we're carrying on and rolling with it, and there are so many people that have other invisible conditions that don't treat it that way. It is an attitude that you have to be so positive about it. And so I commend you for that. And I appreciate that. And I also want to take this time for just a second to address the audience and just say, if anybody out there that's watching, if you watching out there on YouTube or Facebook or wherever you happen to be seeing this, have any questions about the deaf community or, anything around this whole subject or anything, please reach out. You have an amazing resource here for the next, 45 minutes that can provide you with some amazing information. So please take advantage of that. And even after the show, this will be available continuously forever on Facebook, YouTube, and e360tv.com on the TV show, on the station. So please take advantage of this, and we'll have contact information as well. So you can definitely reach out to Rachel and ask any questions you have. So I'm wondering, after that happened, when you were 10, did you experience any prejudices or challenges or anything like that? And how did you deal with it?
Well, there's a lot. Sorry.
Oh, forgot to turn my voice off.
Yeah, that's all right.
Okay, yeah. So there was a lot of oppression in daily life, and a lot of people not intending to be oppressive, and unintentional oppression, and hearing people that just didn't know. And it was either from lack of knowledge or from past experiences with deaf people, or they had experiences and they thought that all deaf people were the same. Or a third option might be that, which might be the worst, is that hearing people who work in the medical profession or in the educational profession, and they have a viewpoint of the hearing world, and that deaf people should try and speak or try and read lips, or try and get their hearing fixed either through hearing aids or cochlear implants. And it's like they think that they think deaf people should be hearing, and hide the fact that they're deaf, and pretend that they are hearing. And most of the big obstacles that we have all over, in people that I meet out on the street, or whether it's a cafe. It's worse when I meet people in schools or in medical offices, that it causes the most harm. And there are deaf children and their families where that affects them the most all over.
Wow.
And that's why I've written this book, because it is a big problem of oppression.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, that is. See, and that's something that I and probably millions of hearing people would never even imagine was a thing, because we don't live it. And so I'm so glad that you're bringing it to light, because it needs to be. It needs to be in the light. And so how do you help? What? Let me think. How to ask this. How do you help the hearing community understand these misconceptions and the things that you're dealing with, so that it can be easier for people that can't hear?
So that is a great question. And this is a good opportunity for me to explain that. I want hearing people to understand a few things. The first is that deaf people are very different from one another. There is as much a variety of deaf people as there is of hearing people. Some of us prefer to talk. Some of us prefer to read lips. Some of us prefer to only interact with hearing people. Some don't want to use sign language at all. Some deaf people sign and prefer to interact with deaf people and don't want to talk, don't want to ever use their voices, don't want to try and read lips. And so those are the two extremes, and then everything in between. And what's important is approach to each individual with respect and an open mind, to ask that individual what their preference is, instead of making an assumption about them based on your limited knowledge. Just throw that out the window. As far as your past experiences, seriously, toss it out. And give that individual a chance to teach you something new, and ask that person how they would like to communicate. Ask them. Don't look at them and go, oh, I know what this person wants or needs. That's one thing that happened to me all the time. I would be able to speak. I can sound, like a hearing person. And people make assumptions that, oh, well, you can talk just fine, so we can just talk and have a conversation. You can read my lips. And no, I really dislike reading lips. I hate it. It's very hard.
I tend to miss.
And I tend to miss when I meet a new person that's a hearing person. I'll miss a good 85, 95% of what they're saying. Can you imagine 95% of what a person's saying? And they see my facial expressions when they're talking. Like, I'll look like this, and and it's not a happy face. And it's just not worth it. So my choice is to turn my voice off, and so then they don't make that assumption.
fine. I want
You know, oh, you can talk fine. I can hear you, so therefore you can understand what I say to you. So I turn my voice off and I give up that power and control.
then jump and make
And then I don't let them, you know, then they jump and make other assumptions. But, you know, often that it's one of the problems that I have. You know, I have good speech.
it
And it backfires, though. It can backfire on me. So that's one thing. But it's important for hearing people to know that the biggest thing that I want hearing people to take away is that deaf people, you know, are not embarrassed, and don't be afraid of them or anything. You know, it's not something to be sad about. Oh, you're deaf. Oh, I'm sorry. No. Don't say that. It's the opposite. For me, I mean, if I wasn't deaf, I wouldn't know who I would be. I seriously, I would never have written this book. And I don't want to have my best friends who are deaf.
I wouldn't have
this rich community,
D,
which we call, what do they call it? The DCCW, Deaf Culture and Community Wealth. And the DCCW, I wouldn't have that. And I wouldn't have access to an interpreter.
If I'm in the hospital.
If I was in the hospital, I couldn't use an interpreter if I didn't know American Sign Language. And if I hadn't been exposed to the deaf world. And so becoming deaf has given me a direction in my life. And it's given me connections with so many people. It's given me a heart in a community that I love. And it's just given me so much.
Taken away.
It hasn't taken anything away. I mean, yeah, it's taken some things away. But it's given me so much more that it's valuable.
That is so impressive to me. Your attitude is absolutely incredible, and I'm so impressed because, again, as I said at the beginning of the show, there are so many people with invisible conditions that they don't have that attitude. They kind of just sit in it and say, "Woe is me," and have kind of a pity party about it, and their attitude is not one of, it's not like yours, it's not like mine, it's not like so many other people that have been on this show, and I'm so grateful to have you here to get that message out, that it doesn't have to be a terrible thing, it can be an amazing thing. So thank you. And this is going to be a really good spot for us to take a break for a commercial. And so we're going to do that for just a couple of minutes, and then we'll come right back and we're going to talk more about Rachel's experiences, and more importantly, her book and what she is doing to make things absolutely amazing in the deaf community. So everybody stick around. Don't go anywhere. We'll see you in a couple of minutes. All right. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for joining us and for sticking around to hear this amazing story. And I'm just so grateful to have Rachel here, to have Paul here, and I should point this way, Paul. And I'm still, yeah. So thank you so much for being here, and thank you everybody watching that are here. I so appreciate you being here as well. Rachel, you mentioned an incident, a heartbreaking incident of a student's suicide that inspired you to write your memoir. How did that experience drive you to advocate for the deaf community, and what message do you hope to convey through your book?
Okay. Let's see. Pictures free.
Uh-oh.
I want to go back a little bit to something you said before the break.
Okay.
I'm using my voice because to me the interpreter has frozen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now can you see clear?
Now he's back. Okay.
There we go. Okay.
Okay, good. Then I get to go voice off.
Okay.
Okay, so I was thinking about what you had said about those nice things about me. And I think that what makes a difference in the community is that having a community culture and people like yourself who understand you. And if it wasn't for that, it would be very different, because being isolated is also a very real thing. And when there is that, there's a time to be isolated, and then that has an impact on us in being around people who don't get what our experiences are, and who have never experienced being deaf, or being whatever type of disability another person may have.
We are together.
And when we're all together, that's when we can benefit from what's going on. And then we can see the positive and be positive when we get together and support one another and laugh and really analyze things and find what our common ground with one another and our opinions and feelings and experiences. And that's when we can really empower ourselves with these things and be a part of that group.
Isolation.
And one of the problems is the isolation and the pain that goes on throughout the world.
Get mitigated.
It can diminish
because
things because being positive, there's so much of that there, and it helps so much, and it really is beautiful.
I wanted to say that.
And so I wanted to say that first, about isolation, and coming from a disabled being,
invisible,
and this invisible condition that we have.
That it's problematic.
That's a problem as well. Because then that means that we are going through our experience without people around us being aware of that.
Yeah.
So lonely.
And that is a lonely feeling.
True.
And it really is. So that aside, to answer your question about the book and why I wrote it, this boy, there's the book.
Yeah, that's the book.
Right. When I started I was already 40 years old, and
I had many years.
I had a number of years being a deaf person, and during those 10 years that I was teaching at a hearing school, and it was a hearing public school, I taught a deaf class for 10 years, and it was during that time that I really started to see things for how they were for others, and that changed a lot. And it was from a small experience, or no, my identity was small, and then it became much bigger. And being proud of being a deaf person during that time, and it changed me in a lot of large ways, internally speaking, because of what I saw as a teacher's role and job in teaching. And it was really profound. It was insane, and just really a shock to me.
Wow.
I saw administration people who were not aware about deafness or deaf people.
They had a burden.
And they had strong a mindset of assimilation being the best way for deaf students, that speech was going to be better for them, oral ways were going to be better, hearing aids, cochlear implants, better than
sign.
Using sign language. And that these hearing ways, that was going to be better than being happy and proud of being a deaf person, and glad to be a deaf person. They thought that these, hearing ways were better than someone who embraced their deaf identity with joy.
Yeah.
And so there were two different approaches to that.
Different ways of thinking.
Different ways of thinking
about being deaf.
And the damage that was done by, this oral thought of living in a hearing world really was pervasive. And it caused, later people in life, and it caused a lot of deaf people to not be able to find jobs, and to not be able to find life partners, husband, wife, a romantic partner, boyfriend, girlfriend, because they weren't able to sign. And there was no deaf community. And being deaf around other people, they were supposed to assimilate with these hearing people, and it caused a lot of mental health issues among the deaf and hard of hearing people, depression, a lot of suicide, and there was a lot of losses, a lot of negative things that happened. And the biggest thing that it caused is language deprivation. So that happens when hearing parents, which most parents of deaf children can hear, but hearing parents will have a baby, and then they find out that this baby is deaf, and most of them feel awful, and they think, "Oh my goodness, I have a deaf child. What am I going to do?" And they experience grief, which is okay. It makes sense. It's unexpected, and they have to figure out what to do about it. and they go to these doctors
Hospital.
at the hospital
Identified.
who, and I have identified this baby as deaf, and they say, oh, we'll go to an audiologist. And so they go to the audiologist, another specialized doctor, and the parents are innocent in all of this.
Yeah.
They go where they're told to go to get as much information as they can and get help from the experts. And the doctors and so many of them tell the parents to get cochlear implants for their child.
Get hearing.
Get hearing aids for their child. Get speech therapy for their child. And go to another audiologist or another expert. And all of these medical professionals have this idea of fixing this thing these children. But what they don't do is tell the parents, go meet people like your child who are adults, like deaf adults. Ask them what their experiences are. Ask them their opinions of how to raise your child and how to communicate. See what their life is like.
Yes.
The parents,
so the parents are then funneled into this very narrow lane that is very closed-minded, and they're missing so much of this beautiful gift that deaf culture is and sign language can afford. And the worst thing is that these doctors and a number of people in the education field, they tell parents not learn to sign language. They tell them not to. It's ironic because these hearing people who are, all out there and now in increasing numbers are learning ASL more than ever. And deaf people, are struggling still. And they're having a hard time still getting access to their needs in ASL, American Sign Language, because others told them not to learn it. And because the doctors had told them, don't learn to sign, don't sign with your children, because then they'll never talk. And so this is their perspective. But what I've seen is that the children who can't communicate with their own parents, I mean, imagine you see these children who are really intelligent and wonderful, funny, great kids, but they don't have any language. And that can meet them. I've met these children who are 5 and 6 years old in kindergarten, and or 8 years old even, and they don't have any real functional language, either in speech or in sign language. They don't have a formal functional language, and so to have these amazing children who don't have a language because their parents were told not to provide that for them, to speak only in these deaf children and to talk, talk only with them. It doesn't make sense.
It's happening all over.
But it happens all over the country. And so these children, when I ask, people, my students, some simple questions, I would say, who lives in your house? Who lives at your home? Who do you live with? Your brother or sister? They would look at me and they would just nod or shake their head. They wouldn't answer. And I had to really try and drag this information out of them for these simple concepts. And I would ask, do you have a pet, like a dog or a cat? And they would just, say, oh, yeah, I like cats. No. Do you have one? Oh, yeah, I like cats. And
When they learned
Once they learned ASL, then their abilities and their communication just took off like a rocket.
much to
And they were very happy, and they had so much to say. But if
the district higher
the district hires someone a teacher who just speaks to them, or who uses signed exact English, which is a different type of signing that is not a true language.
the kids,
These kids will not, they'll never learn language. And so that's what causes so many problems later in life.
Wow. That is, I mean, all of that makes so much sense. And it's so unfortunate that there's so much of it out there that there's so much need. I mean, it's kind of a segment of the population that doesn't, it's almost like people don't think the deaf community needs help, but they do sometimes, but sometimes it's that balance between independence and but getting the help you need when you need it. And oh my gosh. And schools, you're right. Schools are definitely lacking in that department. Oh,
yeah.
Man. Oh, well, yeah.
Yeah.
And I
think one of the things that happens right now is deaf people are showing up on TV a lot. I mean, they're in the movies.
Yeah.
They're on the news. Oh, there's
hello.
Yeah, there's my baby. Anyway, these deaf people are showing up everywhere in media, and sign language is popping up everywhere. And so, from an outsider's point of view, it looks so positive. And people assume, oh, hey, it looks like deaf people are doing just fine. They're doing great. And everything is going really well for them.
So they have
false assumptions that everything is just fine. Peachy keen for deaf people right now. That schools must be doing everything right. I mean, surely they are.
2023.
I mean, it's 2023 after all. Sure, everything's just fine in the schools.
They don't.
And they don't see deeper than what they're shown on the surface, like TV or Hollywood, and how it's portrayed there. And they make assumptions, and they have no idea what is really going on. From what I saw, the
maturity.
The majority of deaf and hard of hearing people have lost the opportunity for education, for careers, and for literacy. Skills and having meaningful, important relationships with people in their lives. The opportunity to have a rich community. They've lost that because they're funneled in this narrow lane, faking that they can speak or that they can hear, and they miss so much. And so that's why I've written this book, because I want to wake hearing people up to what's going on. And right now, hearing people, they're not bad.
They mean well.
They mean well to in how they treat the deaf people and deaf community, but they're very behind
They understand
in what they understand
what's going on
of
in
what's really going on.
U.S.
And it's not just in the United States, it's all over the world
deaf.
Yeah.
regarding deaf children.
Hmm.
And so
To write that book.
I wanted to write this book, hopefully to get the word out and spread that information.
Like vaccination.
And so that it would be like an inoculation
Vaccination
against ignorance.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
I love it. Yeah. That's exactly right. An inoculation against ignorance. That's perfect. Yeah. Yeah. It's true. We need that sometimes. So yeah, that's well put. And we're gonna talk more about your book after this break that we're gonna go to. We're gonna go to a break right now. And then on the other side of that break, we're gonna talk more about I'll put your book back up on the screen and your website, and we're gonna talk about one of my favorite subjects, which is hope in the midst of all this. And so let's go to that break, and we will see everybody in just a couple of minutes. All right, welcome back, everybody. And this has been kind of eye-opening for me. I'm not going to lie. It has been. I enjoyed talking with you before the show when I first met you, and all the interactions that we've had. You're amazing, and I'm so glad that we got to actually pull this off and actually do this show, because it's an important show. And so many people are going to benefit from this, I think. And so thank you for being here and being so just willing to get this out and so patient with me. So I have a question that I ask everybody on the show. And I want to ask you, because I always love hearing the answer that I get. I get all kinds of different answers. So how do you, Rachel, in the midst of everything that you've gone through and everything you go through every day, how do you find hope?
Wow. I admit that while I was teaching over the years, I lost hope. I lost faith. I lost my belief in humanity, and that, the basic people are good. And I really had a mind shift there. and there was a lot of it was a lot of trauma for me that I went through, and the things that I saw with the students and what they went through was traumatizing for them too, even though they didn't even realize it at the time. I saw the harm that was being done to them, that had been done over the course of time in their lives. And so
I had a lot
of despair that I was experiencing, to be honest, a lot. And I finally left. I quit the job. I gave up because I felt that it was going to kill me. And so this is not the answer you wanted, maybe, yet. But I'm getting there.
Sorry.
Recently, I have seen some things that have given me hope. One example is I started meeting families who sign. The parents can sign really well. No, their kids are little, and they're deaf. These little deaf kids who are like 4 years old, 5 years old, and the parents have already gotten sign language, and they started taking classes at the college, and taking ASL, American Sign Language, and they have. And they're signing with their kids, and that is amazing to me. And some of those children are also talking, and some of them also have cochlear implants. The families are still signing. The families are still making visual language a priority. So that the child isn't having to do all of the work, having to understand what's going on around them, and missing so much of it. And it's families like that that really astound me. And I would like to think that they're the new breed, and that that type of person is increasing. Instead of the what's the word you're using here? Not fooling people, because I know that there still is language deprivation that's going on. And I would say maybe 75% or more, maybe even 85% of our deaf children of hearing parents out there. It's the exception, not the rule. And there's social media.
Mm-hmm.
The social media is amazing for deaf people, as well as for hearing parents, because we have groups for parents on Facebook and all the other social media sites. And parents, when they find that their child is deaf, they find other people who are they go through all these emotions. They get online, and then they see other people, and sometimes they join these groups, and they start talking directly with deaf people.
Yeah.
And that is a huge change. And it's such a game changer.
Yeah.
Because when parents say, for example, on Facebook in these groups, I just found out my baby's deaf.
Yeah.
What do I do? Deaf people and these deaf adults, they start responding positively too.
Congratulations.
They say things like, "Congratulations, you have a deaf child. We're so happy for you.
Understand
and we understand your grief as well. We get that."
Learn.
Yeah.
But learn sign language, learn American Sign Language
Right.
as soon as possible. Learn ASL ASAP so that these kids, please get out there and do it.
Can have
So that these kids can have a wonderful life.
Yeah.
the parents.
And you know, and I really, and they're really supportive of these parents.
So much.
And there's so much information that comes their way, and so much gentleness.
Yeah.
Yeah. The parents listen.
And the parents listen.
And then next week they
And
go
then the next week they go to the doctor,
and said, oh,
and the doctor says, "Oh,
sorry, your
it's okay. I'm so sorry your child's deaf." That's what the doctor says first.
you
But
can't
don't worry,
cochlear
you can get cochlear implants, and you can become like a hearing child.
like that.
So don't worry, we're going to fix
I
this.
think
And the parents think, wait a minute,
I heard
I heard
from the
from these
now
deaf people
hear from
who have these successful lives, and now I'm hearing this doctor's perspective, and they start thinking, wait a minute.
them.
So it's a beautiful thing for them to realize that there's more wisdom in the deaf community than in the doctor's office.
I love that.
And so social media can be amazing.
Technology.
Yeah.
And also technology. It's wonderful for deaf people.
We can
I
communicate.
mean, we can communicate in text,
You know,
and we can
Yes.
communicate by email,
different kinds of
and we have so many different types of phones. There's interpreters on the phones.
we had
Whereas
to
before, we would have to go over to each other's houses.
we couldn't knock on the
We
door.
couldn't even knock on the door when we
Yeah.
went to their house. We had to jump up and try and get their attention outside the window, or throw a rock,
Jump.
or jump around and
Right.
so that our friends would see us, that we're there.
Yeah. Well,
Now we text.
And so now we can text them, and it's great.
yeah.
And then also, there was a statement before about movies and TV and deaf people showing up everywhere now in the media, and that's a positive thing.
Other day.
Hey,
The other day, or a couple days ago, there
I'm sorry,
was
Rachel.
errands.
We're almost out of time. I'm so sorry. We might need to bring you back because we have about 30 seconds left to go. I'm so sorry. There is so much that we need to cover as well. I'm sure there's so much that we could talk about, but we only have an hour, and we are at the end of it. And I am so grateful that you have been here. And maybe we'll need to have you come back because there is clearly more to talk about. And so, but I want to say thank you for being here and for being so real.
Thank you for.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. It's been really good. Yeah.
I appreciate it. And thank you, Paul. You are
Yes.
the man. I appreciate you being here and helping me out. And thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
has been awesome.
Really wonderful having him here.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right.
Had a real
And I wasn't sure if you would have a real professional interpreter, but yeah, you do. Definitely do. He's been wonderful.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
All right, everybody. We're out of time. Join us for the next show. That was amazing. I swear we got to have her come back because there's so much more to talk about. But we are so out of time. And but thank you. If you have a favorite episode, please share it. And we will see you on January 12th for the next show. And until then, have an amazing day, and we'll see you soon.